Alright, so what's up guys? This is going to be the first video on the channel here, and it'll be just, I thought just to kick it off, we do a like car tour and a little quick install of a Sway link that I'm replacing. And just going to do some this maintenance, and then I just thought I'd make video out of it and whatnot, so it's easy to do that. But yeah, this is the front right one. It's made by Bilstein, so it should support what we need to do. Some bolts on it, and then these covers, but should technically be an upgrade. This is the OE one. They look about the exact same, so lengthwise. And I had an aftermarket one on there. That one, the boot fell off. I just thought I'd replace it anyway. So, but now we're upgraded to the Bilstein one. I just want to test it out. Right side, see how that goes. But I guess before we start the install, I'll do like a tour of my setup right now in the garage and whatnot. Just for where I work on stuff, and and I have some car parts in here too, so we'll see that. But obviously we got the M logo in the Lithuanian flag. Right now it's kind of a fucking mess, but this is my whole exhaust that I have. It's just like a custom single, but 3-inch exhaust all the way to a 4-inch tip. Got jack and stands and kind of stuff. My stock wheels, another jack. This is my cart though, pretty solid. A little bit apart. Just basic stuff. Air compressor, random tools, and washer and dryer. So yeah, we'll get the car pulled in and then we'll get to work on it. So we're going to start on the car and just what I've done to it and whatnot, and I'll go through the mods and stuff and everything. So we'll do that now. We'll start with the hood. It's a pretty basic setup for the most part, nothing too crazy. But CTS turbo intake, orange catch can from Burr Motorsports, arch pipe, CTS coil packs. And down here we have a dynamic Slow Max turbo that you can't even see. It's down there. DS 2.5 high pressure fuel pump. I think that's about it for on that hood. We got a 4-inch downpipe. Moving on to the wheels. They're Odon AFF7s, I believe. And the coilovers are MTS Technic coilovers. They use iBox springs, pretty good. Pretty cheap for the value of it. They're pretty stiff and get it. Yeah. Definitely need to lower a little bit in front, but fitting's pretty dialed in the rear. And then the spoiler, mobile, stupid stuff. But really nothing much in the interior though. Just magnetic paddle shifters, whatever, and then some carbon stuff, but whatever. It's Tanzanite blue metallic, individual. That's pretty cool, I guess. But that's about it, actually. I mean, this is going to be kind of like a tutorial kind of thing on how to replace the end link. I've done a handful of times on a few cars, so it's very straightforward. A lot of people say you got to take the sway bar out and, you know, put pressure on and all that sort of thing. You don't need to, really. So it just makes it harder and more time consuming. But, you better look at the shocks there. But first off, we're gonna take the wheel off. So okay, so what you're gonna need is a couple things to do this job. You're gonna need 17mm for the wheel bolts. You're gonna need a regular 3/8 or whatever drive ratchet wrench. You're gonna need a 16mm battery on the camera died, so whatever. 16mm wrench, 18mm wrench. I prefer a 16mm ratcheting wrench for this. You could use a 16mm pass-through socket, but this is to take the actual bolts off of the sway bar in link, because you need to counterhold it with a T30 bit, and so you need a 16mm socket, a small mallet in case you need it. So let's take off the wheel and then we'll get into it. Let's take off the wheels. Wheel on that over there. Also, I forgot to mention, you do need a small little jack to put pressure on the wheel assembly. Okay, so for the sway bar end link, there's there's one bolt right here, and there's a bolt down here at the end of the end link that attaches the sway bar, and they're both a 16mm nut with a Torx in the middle of it to counterhold it, and you need to counterhold it with the Torx. And that's why I suggest the ratchet wrench, just because it makes it easier. So also there's a little trick I have to removing the top of the nut without having to counterhold it. Just take a 16mm socket while there's no weight on it, and you can break it loose. And then, I know I should do impact, but you can almost take the whole thing without having to counter hold it, because it's putting pressure on it right now. So, there you go. Just one nut out in the top, and then obviously that has a lot of weight on it, so we're gonna have to jack it up a bit. This is where the jack comes in play, because you're going to need to take the top part out of it, and then so you get the bottom link out. You just want to jack it up until you can release the top of the end link, and it might take a good amount of force up there, but instead of start to move, and then you can just pop it out. And there. And then with that, now we're going to need to definitely counterhold it on the bottom. And yeah, we're going to need our T30 Torx, and we're going to set it to the on position on our ratchet, because it's the opposite of what you're trying to do, is loosen it, because you're counterholding it with that. So you kind of have to finagle everything in there, but once you do, you can counterhold it pretty good, and it'll get better. But once you get it nut off, you can take the nut out. And there you go. Now it's free. This is the old one that we'll be replacing. And luckily, the Eibach ones, you get new bolts and everything. So that's nice. Now this is the top of the end link. And it really goes in one way. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong position to do it, I believe. But this is easiest to put the bottom one in first. And then you can maneuver the bottom one in. You got this on there. Just so. So it's kind of straightforward. You kind of want to make sure that they're relatively straight for the most part. Once you've maneuvered them in there, you can start threading your fasteners on. And I believe you should the same size nuts. I'd say actually are not. Funny enough, they look to be 17s, which is kind of funny. So I'm gonna go grab a 17 wrench and a 17 socket. After I grab the 17 wrench and socket, I had to check and make sure there's actually a T30 on the in the link too, just to double check because I feel like it's throwing curveballs at me. So yeah. So and then in there, and so we can start to fasten the bolt there. So I'm going to take 17 mil and start it with my self-contained finality. Actually, there you go. Kind of locked it on there pretty good. So have that side flush. So now I'll take the other bolt and start it on the bottom of the end link. And we can kind of do the same thing. If we can even get our wrench in there, actually. So now that we have them started, we're going to torque them down. It is not too high of a torque spec. I won't be using a torque wrench just because I feel like that's not necessarily needed. So we're going to torque the bottom one first, and then we're going to release the pressure and then torque the top one. So. Get our touching wrench in there, and then we are going to get our torques in there, and we're going to torque it. About 1, 2 ugga-duggas. So there's that. And we will release the pressure and then torque the top. So, same deal. Get your wrench in there, ratcheting, however you can. And this one's kind of a tight fit, so it just depends on if you can get in or not. And since there's pressure on it now, we don't need to counterhold it. There it is. It's pretty sturdy, feels solid, and that's how you place sway bar in there. Pretty easy. All I really left to do is to wheel back on. Hopefully I don't have to tell you how to put wheel bolts in, but if we start them by hand, you do not want to strip the hub. It's really not fun. Slightly torqued before putting just so there's a little bit of torque in them for when we actually torque the back. I think there's a specific spec you want to torque them to. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I've heard a handful, 100, 90. There's a few. I do 105. One to be safe, and I know it's not gonna strip them out. So really, that's it for the video, guys. It's just kind of starting this thing out, seeing how it'll do. It's just a big hobby of mine, working on this car and doing stuff to this car. As right now, probably makes around 600 wheel. You know, a lot of plans for this car, so I've had it for almost 3 years now, so I really just started making big power as of recently, so, but yeah, here it is. So there'll be more videos, and you know, we'll just see how this goes. I don't know, maybe if this gets like no views, and this is gonna be the only video, but you know, who knows. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna roll in some clips of the car at the end just so you guys can get to hear it, but thanks for watching, I appreciate it. Peace out.